All right. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining us. First Tuesday of the new year. Woo! Yay! I don't know. Seems like a Tuesday to me, but I'm Brian. This is Melissa. Depending on which way you have your screen oriented. We're here for Revit Radio. A lot of similar names up here, but definitely some new names we see coming on here. So for those of you who don't know what this is, you guys type a question, hopefully in the question and answer pod, so we can actually keep track of it, and we answer it. Our answer could always be, I have no flipping clue, but it will definitely give you an answer on that question. If you want to heckle us or, just overall chat with everybody, feel free, as you can see, to go ahead and put it into the chat for everybody. With that said, I usually try to talk about something at the beginning when we start going through, while we're giving you all time to put in your questions. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I actually want to talk about what I call my little detail guide family. And this is simply a generic annotation symbol. And the reason why this is a generic annotation symbol is I use this family to place my details or to know how big I need to be using my viewing area, right? So when I'm doing a wall section or a detail, or even I'll show you a floor plan, I want to know how big it will be to fit onto the sheet without having to go to the sheet, put the view on the sheet and adjust the crop region or move the things around, etc. So for me, I have this thing that I call my detail guide. One of my clients called it an alignment guide. A whole bunch of different names for this, and I forgot to say share screen. Oh, thank you, Dan, for keeping me in check. I shared earlier, and then I stopped sharing, and now I'm sharing again, hopefully. Hopefully you're all seeing my Revit.
Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out.
Melissa's still trying to figure out how to do it on the iPad. So, this is my...
I'm like, where do I push the button?
Where is it? So this is where I go ahead. So this is my little detail guide family. So this is not that complicated of a family. It does have parameters to it. I should probably go into visibility graphics first. So I do have in my visibility graphics some reference planes, some dimensions. It is parametric because those of you who know me know I don't pretty much ever make anything non-parametric, but only in the fact that the parameter is set for width and height, right? So I've got a width and a height parameter in this. And the reason for the width and the height parameter on here is as it changes. I always try to keep my area where I need to have the scenarios of this is where the view title would go. If I'm detailing, this is where the notes would go. And then the other parameter on here is I have this giant piece of text that I can fill out. It's just a label inside of here that I can fill out once this is placed into a project. So it's not that complicated of a family. The big thing is it's just a generic annotation family, right? I do believe my insertion point is in the lower right corner. It might be the upper right corner, I don't remember, but I believe it's lower. Yeah, the lower right corner is my insertion point. And I'm checking that by the reference planes that say defines origin. So these are my insertion points. So if it changes in size, it grows from the bottom right? Now, how I use this thing is if I'm in a project environment and I'm simply doing a drafting view, I put this in the drafting view and I start going and setting it up. My template has a drafting view template for people to say, it's like, oh, okay, look, behind the scenes in my drafting views, I have reference planes on either side. The reason why I have those reference planes is they can help me line views up onto sheets when I get into them. And it's got some other notations to talk about, hey, there are things that you want to get in here and start doing with it. And you guys have probably seen me use this in detail sheets if you've seen any of my detailing webinars or whatever. But the other part where I really like to tell people is I have different variations of this. So if I'm in a floor plan and I'm trying to figure out, man, is this going to fit on my sheet? What do I need to do? Or if I'm in a wall section, like I said earlier, or whatever, I can go ahead and put this generic annotation family in any view. And since it's generic annotation, it is going to scale accordingly. So if I come down here and I follow my annotation symbols and I go to my sim, I have some crazy those are tags, my symbols, my detail guide, trying to find it here. The sun is crazy intense in my room, but I've got this one in here, and you'll see that these different detail guides I have are called one column, one row, etc. 2 columns, 2 rows, 3 columns, whatever it's going to be. But if I'm trying to figure out will this floor plan fit onto a sheet, I grab the 1 column, 1 row, and you could see this is how much viewing space I would have for the sheet it's going onto. So when I get in here and look at this, great, I just placed 2 as opposed to hitting escape. I've got this family here, and for an 1/8 inch scale, this is what it would be. If I come down here and change this to be, you know, like a 1/4 inch scale, you're going to see that since this is a generic annotation family, it's automatically going to scale accordingly. So just putting this in the view lets me know, oh, if I'm looking just into this area, whatever, this is the scale that would start to work for this. How this is set up is if I look at this, now I did say that this was parametric. If I go back to I'm gonna go enable my tab sorting here. If I go back to my little family here, right, I do have a width and I do have a height parameter, like I said. But when I come into the actual parameters in this family, what I have up here is I have a value for the sheet height and a value for the sheet width. So when I come in here and looking at the sheet width and sheet height, okay, that's cool, but I also wanted to know what the borders were. So I've got this all set up inside of here. And the only reason this is here is I'm then going to say, hey, take the sheet width minus the border on the left and the right and divide it by how many quantities of columns I'm going to have. Same thing for the height, divide it by the quantity of rows, except for it's the border width and the top and bottom. Didn't have to do it this way. You can obviously set this up however you wanted, but I usually know that people like, oh, it's a 24 by 36 sheet or 30 by 42. And then you can just throw a dimension down, see how big your borders are that you're dealing with, right? So it's pretty simple. It's got some math in here to determine that. So that's what's set up. So if I come back into this project, in all of these guide families, I do have to set up what is the sheet width and what is the sheet height. I have no idea. Oh, this is the over width. I have to come down here and say, what is the sheet width and what is the sheet height, right? So this is what's coming in here and figuring that out for me. Now, the other thing that you can do, if you wanted to, if you're a client that's like, man, sometimes their sheets are 24 by 36, sometimes they're 36 by 48, whatever it would be, you could start linking these values to a global parameter. So if you wanted to come in here, I could be like, cool, let me go link this to a global parameter. I've already had this set up in there. So I can come up and say, oh, my sheet width, now this is set up to the global parameter. What's my sheet height? Cool, now this is set up to a global parameter. You can choose the global parameter map, your top, bottom, whatever you see fit, but you could go through and start mapping all of those to that global parameter. So again, now if I come up here and start saying, cool, I've done that to every single one of these sizes inside of here. When I go in there and say, cool, oh, this project is a 24 by 36 or a different size, I can just go to my global parameter, change the sheet width here. No, this was going to be a 30 inch by 42 inch, right? And I can say, okay, and now it's adjusting it to the size it would be. And if I've set that global parameter for all of those different sizes, every single one of those is updated for me, right? I've been using this probably for like 15 years in my Revit repertoire, saying, hey, this works great. The one thing about this that I did add probably in like the last few years, I had one client saying, this is great. We've got all these details. We put these details on there. So I showed you I had that label. So a lot of times I have clients going, well, we deleted a detail, but we still need the bubble on there, but we want to say not on sheet, etc. So you could delete the drafting views or whatever, but I just kind of added a label to this guide family. So I could say, hey, not, or, you know, not in use or whatever I wanted to say in here. And that's going to then come across, hey, this is not in use, right? It is down here in the lower right corner. I did not make that parametric for where it could go. I maybe could have said, hey, always stay in the middle, etc. But again, I'm not usually using this on an entire huge floor plan when I'm saying not in use. Usually I'm going to come in here and use it something like this. And hey, it's just right here in my detail.
I actually made a title block family. But it's a masking region that says no, you can just smack that wherever they want on their sheet.
Yeah,
But
I have something similar too, put a title block on, put in. This was just one of those things that, hey, this is what I've done. So this is just kind of me. And I know people have seen me use this in like all my detailing views. It's in all my little detail samples. But I always like to show clients, because I have clients that do is like, oh, gee, I'm going to be going and doing a wall section, right? So if I were to come into the section, I'm like, man, I need to get this onto the sheet again. So I have that same annotation symbol family. So I have like a 1 column and 4 rows. This is going to be, well, that's like my elevation. So that'd be like the one for my building elevation, right? Or I've got the 4 columns and 1 row. So this is going to be like for my wall section. So I put this in all of my views just so I can start seeing. And before I manipulate, I hate going back to the sheet drag. Oh, it doesn't fit, trying to stretch that border out. I can do this in my view right when I get started. The other thing that I've done is this family does have some checkboxes for turning off all of the different lines, right? So I can turn off the little dash lines coming up here. or all of the solid lines. Those I absolutely have mapped all to a global parameter as well. You'll see they're grayed out. I can't actually turn them on or off. The reason why I have this is in my global parameters, I have a property up here called turn off for plot. And if I go uncheck my turn off for plot, it's going to go through the entire project, all 6,000 views, and untoggle this. Obviously, the more views you have, the more things you have going on. This could take a few minutes. But now I can go print this, and I don't have to worry about that going through and being printed on all of my sheets. Like I said, it's not going to be a few seconds like that one was. My clients have, almost all of my clients have the turn off for plot setting in there, and they click it, and it might take 3-4 minutes for that to happen. But that's definitely easier than going back and reprinting sheets.
For sure. So we do have a question that ties onto this. So William's saying he's tried using your detail grid family, but hasn't been able to align them on a sheet as simply as you seem to. I just end up eyeballing it. But it appears when you've demonstrated it that you get the boundaries to snap to each other. Can you explain how you get them to align to the detail grid and an adjacent viewport? Also,
that only happens.
Oh.
Yeah, that only happens in the drafting view. So if it's a drafting view, I actually have reference planes behind the scene, right? So this drafting view, you can see I've got these 2 reference planes. So if I go unhide that, I would be grabbing this reference plane and making sure this reference plane comes up to here. I'd be moving this one over from here to here. And again, I would be stretching that up. In the drafting views now, what the grid doesn't allow me to snap, you can only grab on a sheet datum element. So reference planes, levels, grids. I think that's it. Yeah, so that's it. To place it onto the sheet.
You can snap, or you can use those, but
yeah, so that's the case there. And if I do go look at one of my sheets, so if I do go open up like a sheet, and I'm like, okay, now I want to put that on here. I have very similar. So my title blocks all have the same 3 columns, 3 rows, etc. And it just brings up kind of the same outline look of, hey, gee, this is where that detail should be located with that same grid. So then if I were to come down here and just say, cool, I'm going to grab that drafting view, I want to put it up here. Again, I can place it, but the only reason I'm getting that alignment on the move is because I have those reference planes inside of there that I'm snapping to, not what's truly going on inside of there. So then I can put my view title, and this is not going to snap. The first view title is like somebody just said, it's kind of a, hey, I'm going to nudge it, get it close, cool. The rest of them will snap to it, right? All the rest of them will snap and line up. It's always that first one you've got to snap and go into, right? But again, if I were to come to a floor plan, this is going to be giant and huge. Let's just go into this floor plan and let's just turn on a crop region. So it's going to, and we'll go change that to be the same. Or no, that's not the one I wanted. It's 3 and 3. And then we'll just pull this in, just so I'm not putting this ginormous thing onto the sheet. Cool. I'll go turn my annotation off to get rid of all the other stuff. And then again, if I were then to go drag this onto a sheet, as FYI, did everybody know you can actually drag a view onto a sheet in the project browser? So if you don't have the sheet open or you don't know which 5,000 tabs that sheet is on and you don't want to tab through it, you can just drag and drop from the project browser. It will open up that sheet for you. But again, so now you can see I've got this inside of here. And if I were to go do move, I'm not snapping to the corners. All I'm snapping to are those reference planes and or grid lines within that file. So it doesn't really work for model components. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Oh, now I'm gonna have to take this and just manually place it and nudge it.
Cool. So the follow-up on that is that William tried setting up the global parameter to hide the line work, but couldn't get it to work. So can you give us a quick run through on that one?
Yep. So back in the original file, all of these lines are associated to a parameter, right? So if I come in here and grab this one, it's associated to the one called guidelines. If I grab the one up here, it's associated to the one called border lines. So I've got guidelines and border lines. If I wanted to turn them off independent, throughout the years, I've realized nobody turns them off independently, so I just leave them on. But that's what I had. So then back in that project, every single one of those has to be set up. So I had to go into each one of those families. I closed it. So guide. So I had to go into each one of the family types, go into its type properties and hit the little equal button associated to the turn off or plot. Hit the little button associated to the turn off or plot. So kind of like here, and I thought I had this done. I don't have it for the template for this, so I'd have to, oh, this is going to be my sheet width. Cool. And then this is going to be my sheet height. You have to go through and assign these global parameter to every single types of that. If somebody duplicates it and creates a new one, hey, I wanted 8 columns and 5 rows, then they would have to associate those global parameters again as well. And you don't only have to do it there. So I actually also have this little thing down here. So I actually have another generic annotation symbol that allows me to come in here and type in anything I want. I've also got, I can't type, but I also have additional notes that will come in below it, below notes, but this below notes is a multi, more, yet more. I can put the returns where I want, right? Because it's a multi-line text here. And then I also even have a hyperlink capability to this as well. So if I wanted to, I could go browse, hyperlink this to a website, whatever I wanted to do. But then again, in the type properties of this, there's visibility parameters to this. Notice I have an off for plot. I've also notated that to that same turn off for plot. So for me, I drop this around in some of my sheets or in some of my views that are meant for sheets where I need certain notes. And then when I again go into that global parameter and say, okay, let me turn this off for plot, then that entire thing will disappear. I can click the checkbox. So then this will even turn off these notes in any floor plans or elevations or anywhere else that I might have them. Now I also have inside of there, you'll see that I can still select it because it's still there, but it doesn't have anything visible. So you have to know it's there if the turn off or plot is turned off or unticked. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we got a question in the chat about why it was a global parameter, but I think you kind of answered it because then you're able to tie all sorts of other things to your plot global parameter.
Yeah, and somebody said instead of a shared parameter still isn't going to allow me to turn them off independently. So prior to this, prior to us having global parameters on that stuff, what I used to do is go into these types and say edit type and manually untick those, right? I would do it here 8 times and that would update every single one of my views, but I had to go do it 8 times here as opposed to the one global parameter tick. Or the other theory was those are all on their own subcategory. So under my generic annotations, I do have subcategories for those that I thought I clicked on annotate. So under my generic annotations, I do have the capability to come in here. I should have just hit the letter G and turn those off as well. So I've got my guides dashes and my guide solid. But again, I'd have to go to every view template, detail view template, whatever you might have, and turn those off there. So that's why I chose to go through and just associate those to that global parameter.
So we have kind of like your little link one. We have a notes to team members one, and then we have a schedule that isn't sorted at all. So you can go uncheck the visibility and turn them off everywhere.
Yeah, you can do that too. So rather than this, I could have just created a schedule that had that parameter and unticked it in the schedule as well. But again, for me, I hooked this up to a lot of things. That's also hooked up to those title blocks. So if I go back to this sheet, every single one of my title blocks. So if somebody had this set up with those orange lines, notice those guide grids are going to get turned off on that turn off for plot as well. So it's not only turning it off in my drafting views, etc. It's tied to my title blocks, which you can't do via a schedule because we can't schedule title blocks. So it's tied to my title blocks. It's tied to my other generic annotation note file with the hyperlink. All of those things get turned off when I toggle that. And that's why I said for a lot of my clients, they untick that. It takes a few minutes. I'm not going to lie because it's turning off thousands of families, but it is way better than trying to go, in my opinion, than to go to 5 different locations to do it.
Totally. So we've got a somewhat follow-up asking, what are your thoughts on using the good old guide grid for organizing views on sheets?
I still have a lot of clients who do. So if I am on here, let's go back and make this one, go back in here, say, let's just go back and turn this to my no guides. So yes, if I wanted to line up every single one of these on the sheet, etc., out of the box Revit, they gave us this great tool. I'm, being Autodesk marketing right now, called guide grids. So if I come into this title block, there is this great tool down here under other called guide grids, right? I can turn guide grids on or off in a view. Now, in order to do this, I have to create it first. So on the view tab, we actually have, I think it's up here, yep, guide grids. And when I come in here to this guide grid, I can go create a new one. I usually like to give it a name like, hey, I'm going to do 4x4s. You'll see what this means later. So now what I'm going to do is select that guide grid, and then in its properties, I can say, hey, it's going to be 4-inch spacing, right? This does allow you to set up the 4-inch spacing, and it will give this to you. You can snap to these as well. So like if I were to take this one and hit move, I can grab the end of the reference plane in there and snap it to any one of those guide grids. Excuse me, yeah. Call me guide grid, I still forget. Guide spacing on my guide grid. So I can snap to any of those. So yes, I have used this on projects. Problem is, it's great if you're on a simple project or something like that, but you end up with like match lines all over the place in sector A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Which one are you snapping to? You still got to come down and count it. The big thing I will say is I don't think most people understand that there is a spacing if you select the perimeter, but don't just change the spacing on this one. It's like create different types and have different spacing on different types. Because I've seen somebody come in, oh, cool, now I want this one at 2 inches or 1 inch. And they come back and change it to be 2 inches, but it's still called 4x4, and they broke up the other ones. You also can technically grab the grids and actually move them. So you can come in here and say, hey, I wanted to move this. So if I do grab the whole grid and come say I want to move it, I could technically move it from any intersection. Like I really wanted that to be right there for the floor plan. And if I go to a different sheet, it's going to understand that that was moved. So come down here to my sheets, we'll go open up another sheet, sure this works. And then if I go associate this to that same 4x4, which is not a 4x4 grid, it did move to that same origin. So you can go through and move them in a sheet, and it will understand that they're moved in all of those sheets.
I think Dan's comment in the chats is kind of how I would do it. I would actually give it like a foot spacing and then crop down the guide grid. So it was literally just a crosshair. And then basically say this is, I would name it for like a grid intersection. So if you're setting out your thing, you'd be like, this is A1. And then I'd snug it down a bit. But
hadn't actually done the naming it for like grid intersections. I like that idea.
Yeah, it was pretty heady. I mean, now if you can dynamo it, it's definitely better to just make dynamo put all your stuff in the same place. But not everybody's got a John Pearson. I know.
Exactly.
I don't think I would have been able to get it myself. But yeah, so I think is that kind of what you were talking about, Dan? And then you have, or I'm assuming.
I think the other thing on that too is you can draw invisible lines and or reference planes and lines in your family, your title block family. So if it's like you've got one floor plan and a 6-story building, you can use the guide grids, but you can also just have it come on in your title block. So my title block, even though I have like all these guides and stuff in here too, if I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna go to the turn off for plot, I'm gonna go turn that off real quick. Manage global parameters. I'm gonna go and tick that so they all disappear. But behind those orange lines that I have for those alignments, there's also invisible lines in there. That's what allows me to snap to it. So I'm not snapping to the arrayed guide grid family, which is nested inside of there. What I'm actually doing is snapping to the invisible lines I have behind the scenes. So you'll see if I do like an align command, you'll see I've got some invisible lines inside of here of where I can be aligning that stuff to. So you can in your title block. So in the title block, I've drawn invisible lines like Melissa said, hey, this is where grid A1 goes. I just put it in the title block. And part of the reason why I do that is then if I save that title block for my mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, we all have that same alignment line and we can do it from sheet to sheet to sheet. So yes, I do a save as for my title block for each individual project, not because I'm changing anything in the title block, but usually because I'm just adding a stupid alignment line.
Nice.
So hopefully that covers the topic I wanted to and all of the follow-up questions.
I think so. Yeah, I think we don't have any more on that specifically. Oh, yep, and Dana's saying it makes it really easy to do overlays in ACC or Bluebeam. That is nice to have everything all in the right spot. Well, there we go. So that's a good segue for an ACC question. So we have a question. Rick has got a Revit model in ACC docs wants to insert drafting views from that file into a collaboration model in the same project. The model I find by going to Autodesk Docs in my folder tree says it's modified 11/30/2023. I have definitely updated since then. What's wrong? I'm going to go ahead and say there's a difference between syncing to central and publishing. And publishing is what you see.
Yeah, so
it's super fun to explain to everybody.
Let's see, which project can I pick on? It's not going to really matter. I just need to get a Revit file type. So when you're in Revit and you are looking at a Revit file, you're going to see these first three columns after the name. These first three columns are going to tell you Revit information. The next three columns are going to tell you cloud version information. I'm saying cloud version because it could be for BIM 360 or Autodesk Construction Cloud. It doesn't matter. So what's happening here is it's going to tell you, yeah, this is a work shared model that's in the cloud. If it wasn't a cloud model, it would just say it's a work shared model, etc. But then over here, it's going to tell you when was the last time this was modified and who modified it. But again, this is all Revit data. So this is when somebody in Revit modified it, and this is the username who modified it. The other three is letting you know that, hey, the publish status, this is what you're going to see online, right? So today, I actually published these two files this morning, but this morning at 9:30, I published these two files, but we've been working on them since then. So there is a new update available. What that means by update available is like, hey, you haven't published the latest version to the cloud, right? So we need to go up there to that cloud and publish that latest version. It's going to tell you when it was last published, and then it's going to tell you, again, who did the publishing. Sometimes if people have got like scripts, as might say Clarity user, Ideate user, if people are using different scripts to do this, then it's going to go ahead and show you those. So the user published by, my opinion, doesn't really mean a whole lot when you get into this, right? But so when we're online in the cloud looking at this, and I'm going to pull this one down and we're going to look at the same data here, right? So looking at that same folder structure here, you're going to see that, okay, here's the version, and it was last updated at this time. So on here, it is telling you that same 929 and 927 data that we see over here. Well, you can see it took 6 minutes, 5 minutes to publish this one and 6 minutes to publish this one. So I did publish them at the same time. But it's going to tell you, hey, this is when that version actually got processed or finalized the processing as you went through. And again, who did that processing, right? So the other thing that you'll see online is you'll have a version number here. So this is version 10, and this one has been version 6. That means within Revit, or a utility that will do the same thing, somebody has actually taken that Revit file and published it 10 times for this one and 6 times for this one. That is definitely going to be different than what you see if you hit the ... here within Revit. Within Revit, if you come down here, you're going to see there's a version history. That version history is going to show me that this file has actually been synchronized 132 times, right? I was actually showing this to a client the other day, and we were at 20,000 on one of the projects. The project was started in 2019. So Autodesk online for your Revit version, as well as online for the cloud version, the published version, keeps track of all of those. So this has been synchronized 132 times. But again, if I come back over here, this has been published only 10. Not saying you need the same numbers there. 90% of the time, we're just hitting synchronize throughout the day. There's nothing really to have new online. But personally, for me, I do try to publish files every day. That's my theory. In Revit, I publish it every day. Two reasons. One, if anybody goes to browse this file online, they're going to see the latest and greatest version. But two, it's just a triple way of backing it up. Right? I've got all the Revit backups, but now I've got cloud version backups as well. So to me, it's just an additional way to say, hey, look, I've got all these backups happening that aren't taking my space. They're taking Autodesk server space. Cool. Let's add that there too as well.
I think you also get a gold star for actually maybe being the only person to use the notes portion on your thinking of the comments.
Oh, I know Paul Alvin does it. Paul Alvin does it pretty well. I don't do it every single time. Like I didn't do it any times down here. But when I'm doing something significant, yeah, I absolutely put. I synchronize 19 times a day. I'm not, every. What has this been? Every 10 minutes. I'm not freaking adding notes every 10 minutes.
I moved 3 walls and added a door. Yeah.
I changed the dimensions dimension text location. Woohoo!
So Rick was updating that it was a saved to cloud file, not a work shared one. So don't know if that really makes a difference. But then also we need to go see what you see through the desktop connector.
Oh, so
Everybody loves
it wasn't a published cloud model, it was a saved to
it
cloud
was a
model.
saved to cloud.
I know I have some of those. I'm just trying to remember where I have those when it's done. Ah, that would be, I know I have a client.
Then you get stuck using the desktop connector bit, which we all love.
No, I do have a client. It's their template. Do, 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 do. It's under, nope, 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 nope. It's probably just still going to be here under project. Oh yeah, because I'm in Revit. I'll have to think about it.
Okay, but
It's
now just open a file explorer and go look at one.
this one. Do, 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 do. So this one, but it's just a template, so it's not a save as because it's actually templates. That's not going to work. I don't know. I mean, if you're saying save as the cloud model and you're opening that within Revit as the cloud model, I don't know. Let's find out. File. I know I have one somewhere, but just by the time I think of where
if you're
that
doing
is,
insert from file, you're gonna end up going through the whatever they call the whatever the folders show up at.
Right, but he's doing save as cloud model, not coordinate as a cloud model. Yeah, I don't know because I don't ever do the save as a cloud model. I always just publish them all and call it a day. We'll do, I probably have some under here somewhere. We'll just put it under transfer. This looks great. We will give this the typical Mackie name of delete me.
I should start naming mine. You will not remember what this was for later, so just get rid of it.
Too many characters.
That's fair. But yes, I'm always like, oh, I'll totally remember what I did this sample file for. Nope. No idea what I was doing.
Yeah, I used to have an IT guy that most IT people would just say it's a temp file and they put temp in the name. And then he's like, yeah, but if it's temp, I might still need it. But if it's to delete me, he's like, no, delete this. You don't need this anymore.
Don't even bother thinking about it. Yeah. Although I do have a to be deleted folder on my desktop, but I think I'm a hoarder on my to be deleted folder. Everything goes in there to just sit.
Yeah, I laughed because I was showing the one client all the backups they have in the one file. And part of it was I was showing a client because they constantly every week download the published models and take the Revit files and put them onto a different folder. And I just sat there and laughing. It's like, how much terabytes of data do you have? Because it's just copies of copies of copies. You do realize that the Autodesk cloud, and they're doing Solid Cloud, has all of that. They're like, oh, no, maybe I don't have to be as, it's like, you do what you do, but
what if somebody hacks the cloud?
You're paying for storage space, so a purgatory folder. Yeah, but that just means I want it to go there and I don't want to have to think about it. Doesn't mean I need to delete it. Oh, Rick said, never mind. There's an actual publish even on the Save to Cloud. I should have read that first. So cool. You still have to publish on the Save to Cloud.
Now we all know. I remember having to try to explain that every 5 minutes to people. Like, saving it, syncing it is not the same. Nobody's gonna see your stuff if they look online. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I always tell people on cloud models is you've got the little icon down here that tells people if someone is synchronizing or not. I don't even tell people to use the synchronize button anymore. I have them use the button down here because then if it's a big red circle, don't click it because that means somebody else is currently synchronizing.
That is a good point.
Cool. And then as Dan said, yes, in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, there is no such thing as deleting. If I come back into, let's go back to the folder I was in. We're gonna guess it was that one. But if you actually come back into your docs in Autodesk, if you've told it to delete something, cool, you're not actually deleting it. You're just moving it to a folder called deleted items. And you can restore it at any point in time. So in docs, there is no deleting of objects. I mean, you can come in here and go in all of these like, yeah, no, it's not deleted. There is no deleting of the objects in Docs. It just moves it to a different folder. Although, fun fact, and I haven't checked this recently, I was on a project a while ago, and somebody went through, as Melissa said, they went through their Autodesk dock, or excuse me, their desktop connector. Let me pull this down. Sure, I love this.
Oh no, one of those horror stories.
Yeah, this is a horror story. So they went in, they went down to their, Autodesk docs, and they were in here going, oh yeah, I don't need this folder anymore. And they hit delete, and it actually deleted everything off of the cloud.
Like actually deleted it didn't just put it in
It
the
moved it to the
folder?
deleted, it moved it to the deleted
Okay.
folder in the
So
cloud.
it did.
But that's when I found out that if something has been deleted and you come up here to deleted items, it will restore the parent folder and all of the stuff in that parent folder and the subfolder, but not the stuff within the subfolder. So you have to go to every subfolder then and restore that and restore that and restore that. And 8 hours later, I was able to get the stuff back.
Did somebody get?
I can't. The person didn't even have like admin permission, so I don't even literally know how this happened because they should not be able to do that without admin permissions.
Yeah, that seems scary. That's not a good feature.
No.
No.
All right. So what other questions do we got? I think we answered all those ones for.
We feel better. Yes. Okay. Oh, yes. The deleting does break a ton of things in design collaboration. All the fun. Okay, back to Q&A. So let's go. No, sorry. No, I'm flicking. If I move it too far, it decides to disappear itself. Sorry. Thanks, iPad. Other than generic annotation families and keynotes, any other suggestion for doing coded notes for sheets?
And keynotes. Tom, what do you mean by coded notes? Do you mean just like on the title block, the little notes off to this? That's not a title block.
Yeah, like actual keyed notes.
Are you talking like, oh, like keyed notes? Personally for me, I still use keynoting. Even if the client's using keynoting, I set them up with keynoting because we can do the schedules much easier. We can filter by sheet, etc. I just then have them break them down to like floor plan notes are 100, elevation notes are 200. But yeah, I still do keynotes. If I come up in here into my, we'll go to my annotate tab. I don't even have them loaded in mine. So I would like, if they're going to probably be doing it as a user keynote, it might be an element keynote. Who knows? I have nothing modeled to pick on in this view. Let's turn off crop region. So if I were to come over here again and I have them do a keynote, I'm just going to do a user keynote, and I pick an element and I still have them, put this on here. The difference that you'll see, cool, my keynote file is dead, but what you'll see inside of here is I have keynotes and keyed notations, right? So I've got keyed notations and a keynote family. I guess I got that one broken in here, but so then I can just have this. And again, like I said, in that keynote TXT file, 100s are floor plans, 200s are elevations or whatever, because usually my clients using keynoting, they're using the CSI formatting. So then it's still all in the same TXT file. It's just, oh, gee, we've got one called sheet notes, 00 sheet notes or 99 sheet notes or whatever category you want it. So they are all grouped together in that keynote file. It's just some of them are under 100, etc.
Yeah, I think we tend to use keynotes and just the text portion. And we also have it set up with material tags and just a generic annotation depending on how they want to work.
Yeah, I actually had one client, they were actually doing all the generic annotations and they were literally writing it all out with just text. And I'm like, you do realize you can schedule all of those? And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, if you are using a generic annotation family, on the view tab, you can come up to schedules and you can do a schedule that's called a note block. A note block is how you schedule generic annotation symbols. So any generic annotation family you have loaded, you can grab that out of there. So like even my one that I'm calling my example hyperlinks, cool, I can go ahead and pull this in. None of the stuff in here has to be a shared parameter, which is the other really bizarre part. They're just parameters within a generic annotation family. But I could come in here and say, cool, I wanted to get the text value. I wanted to see that additional text note. I wanted to see if there was a hyperlink, whatever you want to do. And now I can schedule every single time that little family I put in there what I have, right? So now I've got this and I have every single one of those families scheduled inside of here. So if you're doing one for like keyed notations and you're putting a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, you can schedule every single one of those and then add those notes in here as well.
We
And
do have
again,
some clients that we do the note block thing, but
yep,
most people just use it for like demo notes.
the one thing that I hate, and maybe somebody here knows this answer because I always forget. I swear to God, I found it once. When I open up the schedule, how do I know which generic annotation family it's looking at? So if I come back like, cool, let me go edit the field. Which one is the scheduling? It shows me generic annotations. It doesn't show me which generic annotation family I got.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
So I swear to God, I found out where it was years ago, but I was trying to find it the other day and I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember where.
Did you re-find it? Because I feel like this is a thing I Google every few years.
No, I didn't find it. I didn't Google it. I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. I deleted it and I created one for the one
Yeah,
I needed.
I know I've seen this before.
It's like, I swear to God, I found it somewhere. It
Is
was
it
like
up in the
field.
parameters? Up in
Oh,
the parameter bit?
I think actually I went in. I think what you do is you just go in and you add type, and then it gives you the name here.
Oh, okay.
And
Yep.
then I searched the name in the project browser. Now that I think about it, I think that's what I did is I then started searching names. Or I came in here and gave it a new name of Find Me. And then I could search in the project browser with the new type. Oh no, it doesn't let you rename here. So no, that
Yeah, it
was
doesn't let you change it. Ew.
so I don't know. But yeah, that's one of those things. I'm not a big person about I use note blocks often because hey, I want to know what I've got scheduled and how many or what I've used and how many times I placed it, or even things like this, like, oh, I've got all those fields in there. I can use this one to see if anybody's got, some sort of design notes all over the place. Again, that whole offer plot, as Melissa said with the schedule, I could actually bring that back over in here too, and I could manually go turn this on or off if it wasn't hooked to a global parameter. Yeah, that's all I got.
I know. Did we catch all the extra?
Well,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I saw a follow up in the chat of what do you do for annotations that touch on multiple modeled
Yeah.
elements? Um, since this is a user keynote, in this case, they added, and it was at 23, I think it was, you can say add or remove host. So I can actually pick additional elements. Yes, I know the keynote file is dead. Yes, I know the keynote file is dead. Shut up. But you can pick additional elements and then start bringing those in and playing with it. So in 23, had the capability to come in and start adding different multiple elements with, and this is just a user keynote, the thing. So like I could
Looks
do
like
one
a
door tag and
weird
tag 3
spider.
doors.
Oh,
Yeah, just,
there. Use the merge thing to make that less creepy.
oh, I
And
like
then we actually get it's a setting to tell it to say what you want it to say if you put one of those leaders on something else, right? So if it's a keynote and it's like a wall keynote and then you stick it to a toilet, it changes to like varies or something, I think.
yeah, there's a global setting for that. I think is what it is, and I got to remember that is. There's also settings in
I
like
know.
each individual schedule has that as well. So each
Yeah.
individual schedule has it as well. So you can go into the different schedules and change it, or I believe it's under your options. I always love Zoom with Revit. So if you come into
You're
your
getting your like
options,
halo effect.
yeah, and then I believe what is it under? I forget. I don't think it's under graphics. But you guys really want to screw somebody? Go change their temporary dimensions and be something giant or something tiny.
Oh,
It's really
geez.
fun. Oh, yeah, I better
Is
get
it
rid of
under the
that.
UI?
All right, someone help me out here. I forget where the stupid change the varies is.
Did you go on the UI?
Under UI. Tab position, stay and modify.
It might just, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And now I don't have Revit on my iPad, so I can't even poke around myself. Bad. Maybe it is just through the schedules.
No, there's a global setting for it. I just don't remember where it is. I'll find it eventually. Like last time I was like, I can't find this. I was like, dude, it's literally right there in front of your face. Like, damn it.
Oh, there was a question on if it's under the keynoting settings. I know it is one of those like because once you set it, you don't need to go.
Yeah.
Find it again.
Well, and half the time I set things like that under the INI.
Hmm.
It's not just under general, is it?
Yeah. Oh,
Nation.
yeah. Was that Tom that
Anyway,
said
it's there
that
somewhere. Google it. Somebody in the Googles knows where this
under
is
the
more than I.
keynoting settings, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, but that would only be for keynoting. There's like one in general. Because like if I grab this tag and be like, cool, let me add remove host and add this host to it. Now it
Is
says
it
varies.
anywhere on the annotate or the manage and then the additional settings hold on?
Well, that could be where it is. And then under annotate,
Hmm? Good.
arrowheads,
Oh, multiple at the very
multiple
bottom.
values. There you go. See,
Boom.
custom text. There you go. Really have some fun. Really have some fun with people in your company. Anytime it says varies, they'll now say Brian rocks.
I think you should change it to like giant red. You broke it. Bort. All right. Well, now we solved the mystery, and now I'm getting.
Now you're getting. Oh shoot! I didn't realize I
I
was
don't know
getting
if I'm
some.
getting Halo-y either. Yours is pretty good though. Brian's gonna be.
Yes, but see, I have a remote control to close my shades.
That was magical. All right. Let's see. So that one we answered hopefully good-ish. So let's see. Oh, here's one. So Tim's saying, curious to know why this is happening. Is it a remnant of unfinished features or something else? By default, area plans are locked to their area schemes. However, when you create a callout in an area plan, you can swap between area plan schemes, similar behavior to view types.
I don't think I actually knew that. So I come up here to my.
Yeah, I don't know if I've noticed it either.
Where do I have it? This one. So
There's
this
a
is
very good chance it's an unfinished feature, though.
so this is
or
my
or
area plan. See, I don't do call outs a whole lot. I'm not a big fan of doing a call out because I don't like my crop region tied to the call out bubble size. So for me, if I
Yeah.
need a new call out, I usually go to view, I go to plan view, I create a new plan view, I drag it around, and then I do a reference other view when I'm placing a call out. So I don't use call outs all that much. But if I were to come in here and do, a call out, it is an area plan type. Cool, I probably have those turned off under my annotations. That was this D no C call outs, turn back on. Yeah, I don't know if I actually knew that you could swap it out. I gotta go create a new scheme, I guess. Architecture, ribbon area volume comps, schemes, new. Now we got a couple new ones. I'm not able to change it out.
Well, now maybe make a new one. Yeah.
Call out. I can't do it here. I mean, if I did it as a detail view, then it should let me do it, call out for it, but it's not gonna, I don't know. I can't do that. What if I did a new plan view, plan view, area plan for like gross building versus rentable?
Oh, do you have actual area plans? Oh, those are your area plans, right?
So that was an area plan. I'm in an area plan.
Yeah. Oh, more than one. So do you have multiple area
Yeah.
plans already created?
Oh, area plans. Well, now I have a plan for it because I just created one for your gross building. Got it. So you have to actually have more plan views. So if I go back to, no, I'll find which one it was. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I did not know you could do that.
Well, let's not tell them so they don't fix it.
Yeah, so for me, I don't like that this view that is actually here. I don't like the fact that I'm like, oh no, I wanted this to be bigger or smaller or whatever else because like let's say I go back to let's go here level one and do this. Let's say I wanted to come up here and do call out around this. I want the call out to be like tight to the door, but maybe I want it to be bigger. So I rarely do call outs like this because I don't like this tied to it. So literally for me, when I do a call out, I just go in and do a new floor plan view. And plus the old school days, if somebody deleted the parent, then all the call outs would go away. So that was the other reason. Nowadays that doesn't happen. They fixed that in like 2021, I think it was. But so I didn't like it for that reason as well. But for me, I always just say, hey, I'm gonna go do the floor plan. I'm gonna choose the type of floor plan I wanted it to be, whatever that would. I don't care. And then I'm gonna say, no, it's also gonna be a level one. And then in here, I would just go and adjust my crop region. Again, a lot of people think I'm crazy for doing it this way, but like, no, I just wanted to call out right here and here, cool, whatever. Because now this is not tied to the box for the call out, right? We're just
So
gonna
then do you go back and do a
so
reference other
then
views?
delete that so we don't get confused. So then I would go do my call out, but when I do that call out, I do a reference other view. So this is
Okay.
how I've done it. A lot of people think I'm crazy for doing this. I have no idea.
You're
I should pay
crazy.
attention to which floor plan it was. I'm gonna guess it's 12. The double click will still work and take me there. It still does it for me. It still takes me there, but now I can make this whatever size I want to make it, and it's not related back to that original call out. So I'm not a big call out fan. I never have. Again, originally this goes back to way, way back in the day where I wasn't a big fan of it because if you deleted the parent view, then the call out bubble would go away.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I think I've definitely done it where I did a call out and then realized that because of other annotation, I had to have it different. And so then I ended up hiding that call out and doing a reference other view
Yeah.
anyway, just so that I could make the call out whatever size I needed. So I've done
Yeah.
it backwards.
So that's I train people both ways, but I always show people the way I did it here. And again, old school days, if you deleted the parent view, then all the callouts went away. So I'd have somebody go do a wall section, do like 30 details of the wall section, do it all up with drafting detail items, delete the overall wall section. They lost all of those views. And it was like, yeah, that's kind of a horrible design.
Yeah, that's not a good feature.
Yeah, so I don't know, Tim. That must just be a yeah, it is what it is. That's how it was.
Yeah, now we all learned that there's a thing.
Yeah, but see, Rick, you don't need the Revit idea because technically you can't. No, I agree. You should be able to just take the call out and check independent. So if I did a real call out, like it'd be really nice if
Yeah,
I could just grab this call out and then there's the button down here for like independent or whatever, of like, oh, that I should make this something different. But yeah,
yes, with
Michael's saying he
20.
uses the reference other view as well. No, and you can't break the association from a detail to a parent, from a call out to the parent. It just doesn't work. The other thing I will
Well, you
say though
can
is
if you delete the parents and tell it not to delete all those, but
this is
that's
true. You
different
could
than
delete the
just
parent
breaking
view.
the association.
The other thing too that I always tell people on because a lot of people don't pay attention is when you're creating a call out view, pay attention if it's a floor plan versus like a drafting view. And the reason why I say is I get people all the time who do it as not drafting a detail view because if I came up here and did this as a detail view, then there's no view range. It won't tag rooms. You don't have a lot of that data. So depending on what you're doing as a call out, pay attention. And there's no way to switch it from one back to the other. So like, oh, gee, I wanted to do a view range. So like that one's real. If we come up here and we'll do this one as a like detail view here, right? If I go into this view, there is not going to be a view range because it's a drafting view. So there's no view range. I can't move this up. I can't move this down. I can't tag a room. I can't see the rooms because detail views do not see the view ranges or rooms. So just be careful when you are creating call out that you're making sure it's a floor plan versus a detail view when you're creating it.
Yes, I definitely got burned by that a few times.
Oh, everybody does.
And it doesn't do something weird, like it won't show your structural columns, or like there's just weird settings that are different between the two. And it's very
Yeah,
annoying.
because structural columns have if the checkbox for show family pre-cut and plan view is turned on in the family, then the detail view is not a plan view, so it doesn't abide by that rule.
Yeah. All right, let's see. All right, we have, I guess, two more technically, because one's a background. Would you like to do a terrain question or a precast concrete step question?
I can attempt to do the Toposolid question. I just don't usually do a whole lot of Toposolids, but I can attempt it.
Sure, maybe we'll have to have Lauren come on one of these months because she's a genius at this. Okay, so Stefan is saying, I'm interested in the new terrain command and how to make it work with the building, and then how to cut the terrain. And then to be more precise, topos, let's see, topo surface better cut with in-place mass or model in-place void forms?
So the one thing I do like to say is, especially if you're somebody working with a lot with Toposolids, you should really try to get on the Autodesk beta forum, because they are feedback.autodesk.com, I think is what it is, because they are going through and working on the Toposolid tools tremendously, and you can give your input and start looking on that. There is also currently right now, if you upgrade a template and in that template you had a building pad, that building pad can still actually work on the new Toposolids. You just can't create a building pad from with a Toposolid. In 24, there is no building pad command anymore. But if there was one, you can edit the sketch, you can copy it, you can use to bring it around. So my template for 24, I'm going to actually go create one of my 23 template, create a building pad, and then when I upgrade that, I have it sitting off to the side. With that said, I do know in the ideas forum, it has been said that they are looking into bringing back building pads, or maybe letting floors themselves work to cut it. So just do understand that you do have that going in there as well. So I'm going to go create a Toposolid. Cool.
Just turn your floor into a pad. That would be good.
Yeah, then I'm going to go add some points. I'm going to go throw some elevations on here so we can get some sort of slopage on here. Cool. So there we go. There's our building pad, our beautiful grand. So currently there isn't any tool to go in and do like the old building pad tool. So what you have to do is go do a model in place with a void. So it's kind of a frustrating thing. Elements can cut it out. So you can have like an element and cut it out. You can also pre-build in voids into families now and use those voids to cut this, which is kind of nice. So I have one client who's a landscaper. They're building in like all the root balls into all of their tree families. So when they actually put it in a Toposolid, they can cut out the Toposolid and they have a different material sign with a different hack. So when they're cutting through, they can say, look, this is where you should be digging for the trees or whatever it's going to be. So you do have that capability to do that as well. But if you don't, and you're not into that, then what you have to do is you are going to go do a model in place. Oh, I haven't seen that button. I'm not into massing too much. I didn't realize there was a Format 3D sketch button up here. That's interesting. It is very, very frustrating to me that they do not have the model in place button on the massing and site tab where you create the damn Toposolid. So to me, this is a little bit frustrating. I personally think that's because they are trying to bring back pads, building pads and things like that, and actually make some specific Toposolid tools in the future. So they didn't want to bring it in. But at any rate, I'm going to go back to the architecture tab. I'm going to go to the component. I'm going to say model in place. And again, if anybody has a better way to do this without loading a family, please let me know, because I by no means am I an expert in this. So if I come down, you are going to see you have the Toposolid. So I'm going to go create a new family. I am going to say it's a Toposolid since it's part of the Toposolid. I would call this, my building pad, X, whatever. And then you can come through here and literally just start drawing like you normally would. So if you're ever done in a family, this is great. Let's go through. So I'm going to go grab the extrusion tool. I'm just going to go draw a rectangle to make my life easy. I'm going to say finish. Right, so I now have this solid that's only 1 foot tall. We'll go make it 3 feet tall, or what the hell, we'll make it 33 feet tall. I don't care. Right, so now that I've got this in here, now I always start, and this is just me, you don't have to, I always start with a solid because it's easier to grab a solid and manipulate it than possibly grab a void. But you can at any point in time come back and turn a solid that hasn't been joined into a void. And then now that I've done that, I can finish that model. Oh, no, excuse me. I can, now that I've done that, I can go up here and grab my cut tool. So I want to cut the Toposolid by this other Toposolid, this Toposolid void, and finish it out. So that's what you're going to have to do at this point in time. Or if you did have a building pad will still cut a Toposolid. So I don't know if you can copy and paste one in yet. I haven't tried that, but I do know it'll work that way. So hopefully that answers Stefan's question. Revit Radio always goes so fast.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm kind of, I didn't realize you could sneak a building pad in there. I haven't been able to play with Toposolids yet. Okay, our one last question, and that won't even put us horribly over, from William is, he says, I have a precast concrete step that I've created for residential projects, very common around here. Since they are essentially off-the-shelf components, I find a loadable family works better than using Revit's stair tool and looks more realistic. The problem comes when I need to place a railing on the steps. My workaround is to model a wall, modify its profile, host a railing to it, then hide the wall. Curious if there's a better way. Is there any way to nest something inside my step family that a railing could host to so I don't have to model the wall? Or any other suggestions?
The hosted to your step family, I don't believe that's possible because railings can only be hosted to walls, roofs, floors, ceilings. I don't know, can it be hosted to ceiling? Maybe not ceiling. You might be able to scratch that in Toposolids. But this is a tool that has been around since handrails have existed. I've been using this tip since 2004 when I started using Revit. That when you draw sketch lines in a railing, if you grab a sketch line, you are going to see that there are some options in the options bar. There's going to be slope and height correction. If I come down here and change this height correction here to say I want this to be custom and I wanted this to be 2 feet up, I've changed the height on this railing. And if I finish this and look at that sketch mode, you're going to see that Revit, based on what I've had in the properties, either adds a vertical segment or literally it just offsets it. But if I edit that path again and I go back and grab this sketch line in the middle, I can actually change its slope from by host to sloped. Now it's going to say, oh, you're tying to a line that's lower and a line that's higher, automatically slope what those differences are, right? So more than likely your handrail is going to need to have a little bit of an extension at the top and a little bit of extension at the bottom. You know it's going to offset 12 and 14 inches, 7 inches, whatever your steps are doing. You could just change the height correction on that upper one. Change again, height correction instead of by host to custom. Change whatever that value is going to be. Grab the middle one, change its slope from by host to sloped, finish the sketch, and now you've got your sloped handrail. So prior to 2020 and us being able to host handrails on walls, this is always how I've done them. If your if your step family changes in height or anything like that, this obviously isn't going to update. You would have to update your sketch line again. But as you can see, this goes and works pretty well for doing that. Yeah, and that has literally been there since I've been using Revit back in Revit 7.1. Just not that well known of a feature.
Those super secret hidden menus.
Well, I also have to use it because the way I do landings with stairs at the top, I always get a little handrail piece that like jets up. So I edit the sketch of the handrail, grab the top one, and instead of saying, slope by host, I say, no, you're flat, stay flat. And then that'll make it go back to being flat. And with that said, that was the last question. Yeah, and Simon says, yeah, I use that a lot. So great little feature we've got going here. Just so you guys know, I do think I realized when I hit recording at the start is I think I forgot to post last ones, but we do record these. So I do have a little YouTube channel. So if you just Google the Revit Geek on YouTube, you'll probably find me. I will post this up to the YouTube channel for the first one of 24 and probably get the last one of 23 up there as well. But tell your family, friends, frenemies, whatever you want. We have this. We don't do any marketing on this. This is just word of mouth. We don't get paid to do this. Melissa and I just really enjoy sharing knowledge with the community. So hopefully everybody appreciated that. And we should see you guys in a month. So thanks everyone. And always as usual, Melissa, thanks for co-hosting.
Of course.
Thanks everyone.
Oh yes, and welcome to live, William. Hopefully it's as exciting as, I don't know, something.